Hello, welcome to Mimi's Kitchen. If you haven't been here before, my name is Dana, and today I'm going to make a dark sweet cherry pie filling. The recipe will be in the description below. So I have my sugar, my white sugar, and my clear gel. The only thing that I use for making pie fillings, I get this at my local Amish store. You can order it online, I've seen it there, and I'll leave a link below for that on Amazon. So I have my granulated sugar and I've mixed in my clear gel, and we're going to put this in my jam pot to cook up on the stove. I had to boil my cherries. I have 3 quarts of cherries. I boiled those 6 cups at a time, drained them, and put them in a pot with a lid to keep them hot so we can add them to this, bring it up to a boil and add our lemon juice. Then we'll put in our cherries. So at the stove, we'll add our cold water to it, bring it up to a boil until the clear gel starts to thicken everything. Put in our lemon juice, and then we'll put in our hot cherries and we'll jar it up. And I'll put it in my steam canner and it'll be in there for 30 minutes. So this is similar to making blueberry pie filling, which I've already done. I've got my cold water to add to my sugar and clear gel. And then I'm going to use a whisk, and on medium-high heat, I'm going to continue to whisk this until it becomes very thick, the clear gel. It is kind of a cornstarch. It's been modified so that it can take the heat that it will be taking on when it's in the canner. So as soon as this thickens up, I'll bring you back and I'll show you what we do next. So this is getting a little bit thicker. I'm going to keep stirring it. Over here is my steam canner, and modern guidelines say you no longer have to sterilize jars as long as you're canning for 10 minutes or more, which we will be doing 30 minutes. The jars are heating up. This recipe is from the National Center for Home Food Preservation's website. I'm making, hopefully I have 3-quart jars of cherries already pitted and cleaned. Hopefully I'll get 4 jars of pie filling out of that recipe. I'm going to put it in the description, and it'll be for 1 quart jar of filling. If you want to make that into 3 or 6 quarts of pie filling, you'll do the math on that and change the ingredient amounts. But in case, cherries are on sale right now, but in case they go up and you want to get at least 1 jar done, I'll put a recipe in for 1 jar and you go ahead and make as many jars as you'd like to. What's different about this recipe from the blueberry is that while this is cooking, I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of cinnamon to the liquid for my 3 or 4 quart jars, and 1 teaspoon of almond extract. And don't skip this part, it tastes really good. This makes it not just cherries, it makes it a jar of cherry pie filling with that luscious almond taste, which I love cherries and almonds together anyway. So I'm adding this to the liquid. And if you can see in here, I'll try to get you down here a little bit more. This is getting much thicker, like a pudding almost. And I'm just going to keep stirring this together. You get all those ingredients mixed in really well. So we're going to turn the heat down to about medium and add a 1/4 cup of bottled lemon juice. And the reason I'm using bottled lemon juice rather than fresh lemons is because it is a pH that we can count on. It's up to the proper pH, whereas if you use fresh lemons, they can vary so much between each lemon. Some can even have less pH than the other, so we're going to go with the bottled lemon juice, and that was a 1/4 cup. I turned it down to about a medium heat, and we're going to now cook this for 1 minute after adding the lemon juice. So after putting my cherries 6 cups at a time into boiling water, boiling them for 1 minute and then straining them with a slotted spoon, returning them to a pan, which I had a lid for, keeping them hot like that until after we've got our mix all put together with our clear gel and sugar. Cooked it for a minute with the lemon juice, and now I've added my cherries. And I'm just going to stir that together and keep the cherries hot, this whole mixture hot, while I take my jars over to the counter, and we're going to get ready to can this all up. So for the lids, I just wash them and dry them as they suggest and get them ready to put on my jars. That's the way I do it. I suggest you do it the way you feel comfortable or by the guideline of the National Center for Home Food Preservation. So we'll fill this up to about 1.5 inches of headspace. And the headspace is the distance between the top of your food and the rim of the jar. And that's the air that we want to drive out when we're canning. Run it around the edge of the jar before I put my lid on, just to make sure there's no cherry pie filling, sugar, anything on there to keep us from getting a good seal. And then we'll put the lid on and the ring just fingertip tight. Don't use your arm or elbow just to try to get a real tight seal. You want it to be able to let some of that air inside the jar escape while it's canning. That's what will suck down or make the seal concave, and that's what we want. So you have to allow for the air to be able to get out of it, and that's why we only put it on fingertip tight. I'm going to fill my jars and wipe off the edges and get them to where they're ready to go in the canner, and then we will put them in our steam canner, and I'll explain a little bit better how that works. And I know you probably know, but then again, there may be some people that are real brand new to this kind of stuff and doesn't know that cherries have a pit or a stone in them. I had to pit each cherry individually. I don't have one of those 6 or 8 or 9 stacks where you put in all the cherries, push down on the lid, and it drops the pits into a little container on the bottom, but I plan to get one. As you can probably tell, I've been looking at them. I have a single cherry pitter that you literally wash, stem your cherries, put it into the bottom of the pitter, and you have this little tube pushes down, and sometimes the pit will come out the bottom and sometimes it doesn't, and you have to take the cherry apart and pull the pit out. But you want to be sure you don't have any pits. There would be nothing worse than biting into cherry pie filling and chewing away, and all of a sudden your tooth hits one of the cherry pits. That would be terrible. So unfortunately I did not get enough to make 4 quarts, but I do have enough where I can make a pint. So we're going to take out the rest of this, hopefully get a pint. And if I don't get a whole pint, I'm just going to put the lid on it, put it in the fridge, and I will use it within a week to make like cherry crisp or maybe some turnovers or something that doesn't take an entire quart to make. So we'll see what we end up getting here. It's better to have 1.5 inches, I think, rather than the inch. I really do think that given from my blueberry pie filling, it swelled up, even though I gave it 1.5 inches headspace, and that kept it from siphoning. So now what we're going to do is go over to the stove with the rest of the vinegar from our bowl. And we'll end up pouring that vinegar into the canner. I do it because it keeps the jars from getting any water deposits on it. It doesn't stay on my jars, and then they come out sparkling and all clean. I don't have to wash them so much. If you don't do it, it's not a big deal. If you just want to take your jars and wash them in soapy water and take all that cloudiness off the top and the lids before you move the rings, but I like to put vinegar in instead of throwing it down the sink. Might as well just toss it back in this pan. Let it work on keeping your jars nice and sparkly. So since this is going to can in our steam canner for a full 30 minutes, this takes 2.5 quarts of water in the bottom versus like 16 quarts of water in a water bath canner. So that's why I do these in smaller steam canners. They're interchangeable for high acid foods, so since I had it running getting my jars hot for me, a little bit of the water has gone down because the water, needs to be just underneath the rack, and which is where I just filled it to. So the pan that your jars are sitting on, underneath that up to the very edge of it is where your hot water is going to be boiling. But we want it to be about 180 degrees, not quite a simmer, when we add our hot jars. In the back of the steam canner, there's a little hole. And I'll show you where that's at on the lid. We're going to cover this up, and in the top of my lid, I have a gauge, levels 1, 2, and 3. I'm a level 3 due to my elevation. I'm less than 1,000 feet above sea level, so I'm a zone 3. When it reaches down here in the dark green is where I can begin my timer. So now we take off the lid, and then we're going to take each jar out and let it sit for 12 to 24 hours. Then we will check the seals after that period of time when they've cooled down. Check the seals, take off the rings, because you don't store anything with rings on it. They can rust and will rust. And they can also possibly cause you to not realize one of the jars is sealed. It will hold down the seal. So you'll sometimes get a false seal that way. But you can see how nice the jars look after. Having put vinegar in this, it really made my jars sparkly. And this is the cherry pie filling. It looks really good and it smells really good with the almond flavoring in it. That was pure almond extract, by the way. And I tasted what was left of it, what couldn't go in the jar, and it tasted so good. The cinnamon and the almond is just in the background, and it's just enough to make it taste really good. So there's cherry pie filling, and thank you for canning with me again today. I appreciate you coming along. Please consider subscribing to my channel for more videos like this. Blueberry season's coming up, and we're going to do some more canning with the blueberries. We're going to can them as whole fruit in a light syrup and possibly make more pie filling. And you can freeze your blueberries. There's a lot of things that we can do with them. So come back with me and join me again. And thank you very much. Bye-bye. See you next time.